This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 344 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, the last episode of 2015. We are brought to you by Total Saddle Fit Shoulder Relief Girth and 2K Gray. Reese and Phillip and the Para team are off this week on holiday break, so we have a look back at a memorable episode from May of 2013, right before the 2013 Kentucky Derby, as a matter of fact. First Lady of Kentucky and dressage rider Jane Beshear joined the group, plus coach and trainer Conrad Schumacher on picking up the canter and making a rider. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you in the brand new 2016.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Phillip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn.
Howdy, guys.
Hey,
Hello.
guys. How are you?
I have a
I'm
Rolex.
excellent.
I have a Rolex hangover.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. I have a Rolex hangover too. No joke. And we had a wonderful clinic here with Conrad Schumacher. And of course, I snagged him for an interview, which we're going to hear today. But yeah, we had Rolex and we had the clinic. So I'm sort of delirious today. I'm not going to lie.
Busy week. I've just been relaxing. We got some good weather and it's been fun. That's it.
Well, now I hear a rumor, though, that you two are going to be together this weekend.
Yeah, we
Destroying
get to
the
hang
state
out
of
together
Kentucky.
again.
Yeah.
I am so excited. We can't wait. And we have our spouses this time and they get along great. So Phillip and Meredith are coming to Kentucky for Derby weekend, which again, we're so excited. We have the First Lady of Kentucky, Jane Beshear, on the show today. So she's going to tell us a lot about what to do. And Phillip, I have to be honest, I really want to go on the Bourbon Trail. I've never done it.
You have never done it?
No.
Well, you have to enjoy bourbon first. I think that's a prerequisite.
Oh, you know what? I don't like bourbon that much. It didn't matter. After you drink 2 or 3 of those tastings,
you're
good.
I think that's what we should do.
All right, we'll pick a day to do that. That'll be really fun.
Yeah. I've never been, and they're beautiful and they're great drives out there. So I've never done it. So that's sort of, that's my 2 cents in what we do. And we have a Derby party to go to. And so I
like to visit the Keeneland track. That's a beautiful track. I mean, the Derby is fun in Louisville, but I think Keeneland is the best track I've ever been to.
It is.
Maybe we'll go over. Maybe we'll have breakfast in the morning or something.
The thing about Churchill Downs, people who haven't been there don't realize that it's in the middle of one of the worst parts of Louisville.
Yeah, it's not a really pretty
They're cleaning
area.
it up. Yeah, it's getting better, but it's not in a great place. And Churchill itself is a really big track. It's like Phillip said, if you have a chance to come to Lexington, which is where Keeneland is, it is probably one of the most beautiful tracks in the world. And so to go to Churchill, you just kind of look around and say, "Oh, wait, Derby."
Yeah, when you compare the two, I mean, especially when the blossoms are out right now and everything. I mean, it's night and day as far as Churchill has its experience, right? Because you get,
yes.
I mean, how many thousands of people there at the Derby?
We should have asked Jane, but it is a lot.
Well, usually they're over 100,000 usually.
Yeah, I think it was.
120,000. Oh yeah, we'll have to look that up. But a lot. We'll put that on the Facebook page. It's a lot of people. And it is totally different experience. And going to the Derby, I think, should be on everyone's bucket list. It's something.
Yeah, whether you're horsey or not, right? I think everyone would enjoy that big party. So I'm really looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing Reese. And I think it's going to be a fun week.
Can I get back to the bourbon for a second? There's one distillery that you have to go to. What I thought was one of the most beautiful drives that I've ever taken was to Woodford Reserve, which is in Versailles. It's not too far from Reese.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, it is just one of the most beautiful drives, and they do great tours there, and they give you a little more than the other tours do as far as samples. So just saying.
I'm not sure I need a little more. Maybe a little less.
Woodford, that particular bourbon, I think, is my favorite. Their bourbon is really. I'm a bourbon I'll drink on Derby weekend, but it is really good. So if you ever get a chance to try Woodford Reserve, I would suggest it. It's much better than your average bourbon. But,
now, there's something else they do there, too, put a plug in for Woodford, is they do a lunch on the porch there every weekend. So you can go have lunch and drink bourbon, and it's the most beautiful setting. And they're usually pretty involved in the Kentucky Derby. So they probably have big parties there this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The whole state. Yeah, the whole state is just, we go literally from Rolex to Derby. It's 10 days or 2 weeks of just all horse all the time. So it's pretty cool. It's a really special time to be here in the state.
Speaking of Rolex, Miss Modest over there. Somebody did the test ride at Rolex that we know.
Oh, thanks.
All
that
the way
was
from
fun.
start to finish.
We made it all the way start to finish. Winnie, that is a great honor to be asked to do that, and it's hard. That is a big horse experience. It's the same experience that the horses had from the WEG. They have to leave the stabling. They have to walk. There's a horse path, but it's through kind of the cross country field, up and around the stadium where they're getting ready, and they're, camera trucks and all kinds of stuff. And they have to come down the hill and go into the stadium. And Winnie was a rock star. That's by far the biggest venue that she has ever seen by miles. And she was perfect. She really was a good girl. So it was pretty cool. There was a little mistake in the test, but the eventing tests are very different than the dressage test. Eventing dressage tests, their questions are very different than the questions that we ask, dressage horses to do. So that was interesting. And Winnie had been showing. So Miss Winnie was great, though. She really showed me that she could do sort of the big ring experience. So that was pretty cool. So I was on cloud 9 for sure after that.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun. And then we went into
a great
clinic.
a great show coming up with the First Lady and Mr. Schumacher.
I know. I was nervous for the show, guys. I'm not going to lie. Two very guests, special people, huge guests that are part of my life, and they were wonderful to come on. The First Lady of Kentucky, Jane Beshear, but she also works as hard as all of us do in her riding. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about Kentucky, and then she's going to talk to us also about just her riding in general. She is a dressage rider, for everybody that didn't know that, and she works very hard on it. And then I also got Conrad Schumacher. He was here doing a clinic. And then I sat him down in a chair with a glass of wine and said, we're going to do an interview for 15 minutes. So Philip wasn't able to be there, and Glenn was with me. But I was nervous for both these interviews, guys. But I think they turned out well. So I hope everyone enjoys.
Well, Reese, we almost missed the news. We forgot to talk about the World Cup that just happened. A new champion was crowned, Helen Lange-Hannenberg. That's a long last name. But she rode Damon Hill to victory, while two-time champion Adelinda Cornelissen and Parseval were runner-up, and Edward Gall and Glock's Undercover were third. So a really exciting dressage week, maybe not in North America, but for Europe. And our two Canadians did really well and showed their stuff over the weekend. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, that was a big one. And there was really good coverage and some stuff online. If you want to find it, it's very easy to find it right now. And the other bit of news was Ravel, Stefan Peters' longtime horse, was officially retired at Del Mar National Horse Show on Saturday night. He really has been a top horse for the U.S. for the last 5 years. They were second American combination to win the World Cup title and the only one to capture the CDIO at the world's most prestigious event, the World Equestrian Festival at Aachen. And he will now live at his owner, Akiko's farm in Northern California. So we wish them well and on his retirement for sure. Well, it's truly an honor this afternoon to have the First Lady, who is the governor's wife of Kentucky, on the show, Jane Beshear, and she is an avid dressage rider and also will talk to us a little bit about Derby Week in Kentucky. Well, it is truly a pleasure to have the First Lady of Kentucky, Jane Beshear, with us today. And some people know, but Jane is one of my students. So it's such a pleasure to have her. And I have to be honest, Jane, I'm a little bit nervous about interviewing you in this role.
Well, sometimes I'm a little nervous when I come in to take a lesson, Reese. So, I'm about fair play.
I think you should always be a little bit nervous for a lesson. I like that.
Yeah, or an interview in this case, for sure. So, Jane, we wanted to start the interview today and talk a little bit about this is a very special week in Kentucky. And I'm so glad you took time out. It is Derby week here in Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm headed down this week to experience the whole thing. I'm going to visit Reese, and so I need to know what is there to do in Kentucky besides the Derby, and tell me all about the Derby as well, so I know. So I have a heads up for my trip.
First of all, rest up.
Yes.
Because Derby time in Kentucky is very busy. We just come off of the Rolex 3-day event, so we are very focused on the horse all the time, but particularly during this period of time, having had the top riders in the world here for competing at Rolex, and now we have the top thoroughbred 3-year-olds racing on Derby Day. So there's just so much about Kentucky. It's in its most beautiful time of the year, springtime. Everything is blooming. We're at our best to welcome everyone from all over the world to enjoy the king of sports, which is thoroughbred racing, and of course this is the horse capital of the world.
Well, Jane, a lot of people think that Kentucky Derby Day, which is this Saturday, it's a day, but in Kentucky Derby is a week or more, but they celebrate it for a week, and pretty much the drinking starts on Monday and ends on late Sunday night. Do they keep you busy all week? I'm shocked we even have you on the phone.
Well, we started early this morning.
With the
governor
drinking?
and I were. No.
Okay.
I did have a little bread pudding this morning, but
oh, yummy, the best.
But we start today at the other preparations have been going on before, and there have been other events prior to this beginning of this week. But today we started on the backside of the track. We go at dawn, and when the horses are out breezing on the track, and we do interviews with all of the radio and TV shows. Talking about the Derby and about Kentucky and about the number of people that will be coming for this event. So I love that. While everybody else is talking, I'm turning around watching the horses on the track. And, you listen to those hoof beats on that dirt track, and it just raises your expectations and gets everybody so excited about Derby Day. And, we don't only have Derby Day, but we have the Oaks Day before, which is for the fillies. And so that's always an exciting time, too. And I'm really proud because Churchill Downs has been working with an organization that I'm involved with, Horses and Hope, and others that are dedicated to breast cancer. So the day, Oaks Day being the filly day, we pink out Churchill Downs. They drape it in pink. The spires are pink, and everybody comes dressed in pink. So if you're coming for Oaks Day and Derby Day, you must come in pink.
And when you think about racing over the last couple of years, you think about the fillies because it's been Zenyatta and Rachel Alexandra that have really lit up the racing world and brought racing back to normal people again.
Well, and it's not only that, but it's fillies and mares and all of the disciplines. Since I too ride 2 fillies, 2 mares, we girls are pretty special.
Now, I do have one other follow-up question here for you about the Derby. You've been in your husband and you have been in office for 5 years now.
Well, we're in our sixth year.
Does it ever get old showing up on Derby Day at Churchill Downs and seeing the twin spires? I realize it's a little bit different for you guys because you're there as an official visit, but you're also horse people. So does it ever get old showing up for that day?
And it's always a thrill. When you drive up and see those spires and you walk into that track and you see all of the people that are there for the Derby, and my goodness, when that race goes off, the roar that goes up from the crowd is just, it is something, unless you're there, you don't get the feel of what that is. A jockey friend of mine told me one time that somebody had told her that probably the hardest part of racing is when you come down the final turn and you hit the wall. And she said she didn't know what it was till she ran her first major race, and that wall is the crowd as they roar and yell for their favorite. And she said it's quite an experience for her, and it's quite an experience for everybody that's there. And we're always across from the crowd. We're above the tote board as we watch that race. And it's a phenomenal sound, and then the beauty of the horses as they go past. And of course, my husband will tell you that the reason he ran for governor was so he could present the trophy.
That's a great reason. I like it.
So can you give me a couple of other Kentucky highlights, things I should check out, besides the Derby and probably the horse park? What else is going on?
Well, of course, you just mentioned the horse park is my love.
Yeah.
I've been involved with it practically since it began, and it's something that people should not miss if they're interested in the horse, and even if they're not involved in horses. There's so much to see. It's so much about Kentucky. But the Bourbon Trail, we have so many of our distilleries that are open for tours, and of course there is an entire tour, and it's kind of like the wine tasting tour out in California. We also have a wine tasting tour in Kentucky. So you just have to be careful how much you take.
I was just going to say they did get free samples, Philip. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
But that's a wonderful thing. 95% of the bourbon that is produced in Kentucky. And of course, my husband says the other 5% is counterfeit. So, if you really want to taste of Kentucky, bourbon is certainly it. And, there is just so much around here to see and do. We've got our breeding farms, and some of those are available by appointment to be able to go in and see some of the famous stallions and hear about the breeding process. If you're about and around, we've got Natural Bridge that's not very far away. If you're a zip liner, that's there. If you're a rock climber, that particular area is famous all over the world as being one of the best rock climbing areas that is existed. So
can I put in a plug for something for horse husbands and families who are maybe not into the horse thing that have to go along to Kentucky? One of my favorite places, and we went many times when I lived there, was Mammoth Cave. I love Mammoth Cave.
One of the natural wonders of the world.
It is. It truly is. We love it. And right down the street from there is a little automobile plant too. So
the only place in where the Corvette is made.
Yep.
So, we are very proud of that because, we have the huge Ford plant that's here in Kentucky. We have Toyota, and now we're getting ready to, they just announced that the Lexus is now going to be built in Kentucky, in Georgetown, Kentucky. And then we have the Corvette. My husband's hoping one of these days that might be his car.
I think you would like that for sure. So Jane, I'm going to switch gears because of course I'm so proud that you are a dressage rider now. When I started, we started together, oh goodness, many, many years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago.
You were just a mere child.
I was so young, and I've learned that we have learned a lot together as we've gone through. So you have changed now from eventing to dressage. How is the change going?
Well, it actually some days really good, some days not very good, just like eventing is. I just don't have as much time these days to do all the preparation for, in the event world because you've got to spend so much time in cross country and perfecting your stadium jumping, and not to mention the dressage that goes along. And my time is so limited because of my husband's position and all the things that I do in the state. So to really narrow my concentration, I've really narrowed down to mostly doing dressage, at least in competition times. And it's a good thing for me because it's a real focus. And I am one of those. I think they call me an A personality type. I want to do things and I want to do them correctly, and I'm very competitive. And so this certainly is a channel for all of that, and particularly being an amateur. And an amateur that doesn't have a whole lot of time, but the time that I spend, I try to make it as productive as possible.
And you do a great job. And you have a tricky mare. Miss Prissy is her name. She is a little bit on the tricky side.
She is aptly named.
She is kind of, but we love her, and she's been like that since she was a young lady. So what are some challenges that you have? Like you said, your time is limited, and it is difficult on a horse like Prissy. How do you deal with that with her?
Well, I think it's any time that you're dealing with an animal, there has to be an understanding. And sometimes when days or times are not going so well for me, it communicates to the horse. And she is certainly a very sensitive horse. So if I'm a little bit tense, which I tend to be, she becomes tense. And she is one of those that is extremely unpredictable. She can put in a brilliant test or a brilliant lesson. And then the next time she shows up, there is a gremlin in every corner, and there is no focus whatsoever. So she's always a challenge, but that's the way I like. My husband and my son, who is an equine veterinarian, are constantly trying to convince me to go to the gelding, a nice, quiet gelding. But then that's not the challenge that I need. So, the part of it is trying to get the best out of her. And that takes a lot of concentration and really work on my part. So when I do have time, I try to put as much in it as I possibly can.
Now, do you have any tricks or tips for anyone trying to find time? Is there a way to do it, to balance your life that way?
Well, the horses have always been kind of the leveler in my life, always from the time I was a child. My father told me, and everyone else who would listen, that if he had not been involved with horses as a teenager, he probably would have shipped me off to the furthest points of the world. But it's the only way he survived my teenage years. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. I was just a typical teenager. But I've always used the horse as a way to kind of level my world. And I think that's the beauty of a horse, whether you compete with them, whether you race them, whether they're your backyard pony. They get either the best or the worst out of you. As I tell parents whose children want to start riding, I encourage it beyond belief, because it teaches patience, it teaches teamwork, responsibility, all those things, all those traits that you use in every other avenue of your life if you want to be successful. So for me and for anyone else that's an amateur that's working with families and jobs and everything else, is you do have to carve the time out. You just have to make it. I get a schedule every week, and I go through that schedule and I mark out periods of time where I dedicate it to either a lesson with Reese, or that I go home and practice for the next lesson with Reese. And for me, it's really difficult because I have to leave Frankfurt and drive 40 minutes to the farm, change my clothes, get on the horse, ride for the period of time that I've set aside, get back in my clothes, go back and either give a speech or host a dinner or something else. Now, my hair doesn't always look as good as I would like it to look when I get back because I always wear my helmet. And, but, I think everyone can find some time if you just make that effort, but you have to schedule it, and I think that's so important with everybody in the busy lives that we all lead. And I have to say that, Reese is a trainer, particularly of amateurs, and many of her people are of various dressage, strictly dressage, and she has a lot of event folks too. And everybody is busy, but I have to say that in choosing a trainer too, you need to, if you are as busy as I am, and many people are, you've got to have a trainer that is able to work with you in a timing situation. I can't say to Reese, I need a lesson every Monday at 2:00 because I don't know where I'm going to be. So, it's not very easy for her. She's so cooperative with me when I will call her and say, I've got time on Monday. I've got about a 3-hour window. Is there time in there that you can work me in? And that's a lot of the issue that is out there for many people, not just me.
Well, but one of the things, Jane, that I always find that's so amazing about when you come for a lesson, you always are here early. You always have time. You really schedule it and you put your phone away. And it's very much time that you carve out for yourself. And that's something that I always admire about what you do. And you truly are an inspiration for all amateurs. And you do a heck of a job. You went to regionals last year and we've got our first score. You went last year training in first level. And this year, We're getting ready for second level. You already have one score, so we're getting there. So it's such an honor and a privilege to work with you, and you truly are amazing for all riders and somebody that we can all learn from. So Jane, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're busy this week, and I hope everyone enjoys having a derby party and pinking out this week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Reese, and thank all of you.
2K Gray's mission is to honor a woman's adventurous spirit by creating apparel that offers comfort while riding, plus style when you're not. In 2011, Grand Prix rider and entrepreneur Chris Pinto joined forces with fashion industry veteran Meryl Ranzer to create a chic and sophisticated line of performance riding breeches that look and feel better than your favorite pair of jeans. The line, made for women by women, is now being expanded and refined by teaming up with global equine manufacturer and distributor Intrepid International and notable fashion designer Kia Tomlin. 2K Gray offers serious riding clothes that are sturdy in the saddle, yet slimming, stunning, and sophisticated everywhere else. Each detail, from pocket shape to seam placement, is designed to enhance a woman's silhouette and to celebrate different body types. The collection is machine washable and proudly designed in the USA. Check out the new and exciting designs at 2kgray.com. That's the number 2, the letter K, Grey.com. You can also follow them on Facebook at 2K Gray. Feel better and ride better. 2K Gray.
Well, it is truly an honor to introduce my mentor, Conrad Schumacher, who has been national team coach for Germany, for Holland, for Great Britain, and he was also the Young Rider team coach. And we started working together now 20 years ago, and he's been extremely influential in my career. So I hope everyone enjoys the Master of Dressage. Well, it is an honor this evening to have my mentor and teacher, Conrad Schumacher, here with us this evening. Conrad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, we've had a very wonderful weekend of clinics here at Maple Crest Farm, and we even have a very unusual setup. You are sitting in the indoor, and I'm in my apartment, and so we're in the same location, but not quite sitting together this evening. But one of the questions, and I really had to think about what to ask you, because you are such an amazing teacher, is you always say to riders, and when you give a clinic, that you are making a rider and not making a horse. Can you kind of start the conversation about what you mean by saying that?
Well, I made the experience in the dressage business that the horses develop only really well when the rider is good. Actually, riders are making the horses. And that is one reason. The other reason is I've trained a lot of young riders in my life. It's more than 3,500 all over the world, and maybe like 2,000 in America. And when you train young riders, you have to train the rider. You have to make them understand the giving of the aids and how things are working together. And so this is my background, and this is my experience, and because of that, I train riders primarily, and the riders later, they make then the horses good, and the horses become successful.
This is so true. I mean, I started riding with you, oh goodness, it's about 20 years ago. So I have personally had several horses that we've worked together. And it's very true as we go through the scale and the scale of training and learning, every horse is different. And you have to be able to change to different horses. So we also talk a lot about feel and learning about feel and how we feel and teach and learn what feel is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I mean, the difficulty in teaching a rider is that you have to teach technical, the giving of the aids. This is relatively easy because you can describe it by words. And it's also logical, and someone who is intelligent understands that right away. But then you have to teach the feel, because the giving of the aids has also two aspects. It's not only the technical aspect, it has the aspect of the timing of the aids. And the timing of the aids cannot be done with the brain. It can be done only when you have learned to feel. Now, when you talk about feel, that doesn't help the rider, because words don't cover that really. So my way of teaching is I put cues together with the rider and the horse situations where the feel will come up. And then I tell the rider in that moment, that's it. And then I do hope that the riders remember. And I do that often, and then I do it in variations, and after a while, the riders will learn to feel. And then we have the prerequisite of giving the aids in a good way.
So tell us, when you start talking about the technical aspect, and let's talk a little bit, let's say, about picking up the canter, because we saw that a lot, or I saw that a lot today as we went through. We had young horses to Grand Prix horses, and we had the young ones who had to learn to pick up the canter by going through the neck. And when you start talking about giving the aids in that moment, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when you want to proceed from a trot, for example, with the young horse into the canter, so technically it is the weight of the rider must be on the inside seat bone more than on the outside seat bone. That has to do with the balance, and you can achieve that easily by pushing your inside leg a little bit further down. And then the horse must have a nice flex to the inside that is technically done with your inside hand. You turn the wrist carefully to the inside, and the outside rein stands passive at the neck. And then your inside leg switches down because of the seat position is assisted by the outside leg, which is a little bit behind the girth. And then you have the right position of rider and horse, and then you can close the legs, and this will make the horse cantering. But it might be that a young horse which has never done that before has to learn that and understand that. That may take a little while. But then the horse has understood, and then it goes. So this is technically described relatively easily. But the moment when you actually ask for this canter, that would be then the moment where you feel that the horse is ready for it. And this is now the second part to feel.
Right, exactly. And that's the tough part. And today we worked a lot also on giving in the neck. And we started in the halt. And we would take this all the way to the canter transition or to piaffe if appropriate for the horse. So talk to us a little bit about when you're dealing with neck position in the halt, for example. How do you feel with your seat and your legs to get the horse round or keep the horse round that way?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is what I do a lot with all the riders and the horses, to do it in the halt. With giving the horse a good neck position, because in the halt, the horse as well as the rider, they have nothing to do but concentrate just on that neck. They don't move, so they have a great possibility to develop the feel, both of them. The horse feels good when the neck is well rounded, and the rider feels this as well, and then you can do exercise in the halt, a slight flex to the left, a slight flex to the right. Then you can give one side from your wrist and take the other side, or you keep both hands steady and wait until the horse has given the neck and so on. You can make the crest of neck flip over to the left or flip over to the right, depending on what you want to do. And when you have that done, then there is so much understanding between horse and rider that later when you go for the walk and for the trot and for the canter, you save a lot of time when you exercise it like that. And you also, when you have the neck well rounded in the horse, you can let the horse stretch down. And the horse will try to see the deep outline, and then you retake the rein. So you can train in the horse not only the neck positions and the flex, you also can train the stretching and the retaking of the reins. And when the rider can do that, then he rides way better because he's always able to reward the horse in the right moment. The reward comes by a lightening of the contact or the stretching.
Yeah, and it works, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you, I worked a lot on that today on the young horses especially, and it was very, very helpful. Another exercise, Herr Schumacher, if we could talk about, you did a great exercise also to help with the neck, the turn on the forehand. You did that with all the riders almost. Can you talk to us a little bit about the aids for the turn on the forehand, but also the feeling of the neck and the turn on the forehand?
Yes, when you turn on the forehand, and you do that with the flex neck to the inside, and then you use the inside leg to turn the horse together with the inside hand, but without using the inside hand much. The inside hand is only flexing the horse. Then you have a good influence on the horse's spine. This slow turning loosens the spine, and because of that, the horse becomes soft in the neck. And this is very helpful to teach that to a rider, because always when the rider is on the way with the horse and the horse gets a little bit strong in the hand because it's young, or it gets a little bit excited because of environmental issues, then you can go back to this horse, turn the horse off the forehand, and you have it soft again. This is why we do that. And that is an old exercise which was already done hundreds of years ago in the classical riding in Europe.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many horses, we saw some upper level horses today that weren't so comfortable with that movement. And it's something that you use a lot, the turn on the forehand. And you did also a really neat exercise that incorporated leg yields today and the turn on the forehand down the wall. Can you explain that exercise? Because that was sort of the next step in this softening of the neck and the feeling for the riders.
Yeah. Well, basically, the turn on the forehand and the leg yield has the same idea. We drive the horse with the inside leg to the outside leg and to the outside rein. When you do it in the halt on the turn on the forehand, it is comparatively easy. And the next step is when you go down the long side and you flex the horse to one side and you drive it, for example, from the right side to the left side, you finish that movement down the long side of the arena with a turn on the forehand. You go from this movement into the turn on the forehand. This is more complicated because the horse is moving. But when the horse has learned it in the halt, then it will do it easily. And then you have a great tool for using this exercise also. Maybe you're on the showground and you warm up your horse, you can do it there. And it will help tremendously to get hold of the horse in a good way. On a showground, normally a turn on the forehand with a halt is difficult to do because in the warming up, you cannot just only halt. The other riders are riding around you and the horse get nervous. But this turn on the forehand, which comes from a walk, can be practiced almost everywhere. So this is then the next step, and will be as successful like everything which is done properly, riding from the inside to the outside so carefully that the horse gets more contact on the outside rein.
Can you just explain to us what you mean by riding from the inside to the outside for our listeners? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, of course, not that is so real visible in a way that the horse is pushed to the inside leg hard to the outside. It is more a very skillful, soft riding with the inside leg a little bit to the outside, but the outside leg is in a guarding position. It is then a little bit behind the girth and holds the horse there without pressure. And this little bit of driving from inside to outside makes the horse round and soft on this inside. And that is particularly important for all the classical movements. You have to have the horses soft on the inside that you can ride half pulse or canter pirouettes or whatever it is. And that is practiced already with these simple movements on the lower level. The horses get the understanding for that. But again, it is almost not visible. It is done very, very carefully.
Yeah, and it's truly amazing to watch you do it, because when you do it, and I certainly try to teach all my students, but when I watch you do it, it's amazing to see how the horses become much more rideable and much more obedient through this work and much more relaxed. Because they understand the concept that you're looking for, and it's truly amazing to see them transform. One of the last.
Sorry, but it's also
no, go
very
please.
important. Yeah, in the moment we have a lot of rain here, and I almost cannot hear you. It is really, the rain is very, very strong.
I know, I can hear it. Glenn can hear it too. We're good though. Don't worry, we're fine. I can hear you.
Okay, but let me say something in addition. When you do this careful riding from inside to outside, as I described it, that has one very important effect in the horses. You become a close contact with your body to the horse's body, and this makes horses particularly happy. Horses enjoy very much this contact of a soft leg and a soft hand, and that makes them relax very well and listening to the rider. A happy horse is always listening to the rider, and that is another reason why I like to do that with this riding from inside to outside, to enhance the contact what we need to have the horses really happy.
Yeah, and you're just a master at making horses happy, and riders. All the smiles today were pretty cool to watch. And for our last question here, Schumacher, we talk a lot about education and educating riders and horses. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of education, and also some ways that you feel like Americans can get education?
Well, education is extremely important for classical riding. The riders have not only to learn that what we were talking about, the technical part and the field part. It is also, of course, the mental fitness has to be educated. Riders have to have patience. They have to be eager to do it. They have to be determined, but on the other side, they always have to be humble and understand that the mistakes which come about are never done by the horse on purpose. A horse will never do a mistake on purpose. It cannot do it because the horse is not logical oriented. It reacts on aids and it reacts on its instincts. So when the rider is not educated in that way, they will not be fair to the horse. They won't do justice to the horse. And that is why this education is extremely important. And in Germany, we educate our riders at least 3 to 5 years in order to have later good riders who understand the sport, who understand themselves, and who understand also the instincts of the horses. And when we do not do that, then we will never get really good riders. And good riders are essential for making a good team. And in America, I know that there are many attempts to school the riders well. But I think personally that a lot of things could be done in addition to that what is done already. And I do hope that that will come about now in future in America more. America must just understand that the dressage riding is different from jumping or eventing. In jumping and eventing, you can produce more or less a little bit your own style. In the dressage, you also have to ride on your own, but the knowledge and the way of producing the horses has to be done within a system. And the system is hard to understand when you don't have the education.
Right. It is. And, education is available. And, for example, you travel through the country and it's very affordable to come and audit your clinics. And it's really a wonderful day of education. So, Herr Schumacher, I need to feed you dinner. You've been working all day and I appreciate your time to talk with us on the Dressage Radio Show. And I hope you'll come back another time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Liz.
This tip brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, what a great show and some exciting guests this week. Last week, we got a question from Claire Assen about exercises to do with collection. So we're looking forward to getting a guest on to help us answer this question. And hopefully sooner rather than later, we can do that for you.
Exactly. And we love listener shout outs. So keep them coming, everybody. And I hope that everyone has a derby party this week. Philip and I we'll put up some pictures of our weekend hanging out in Kentucky. But I hope everyone has a hat and a cute dress and make some mint juleps, which are delicious.
I'm gonna take photos of all my losing tickets and me ripping them up how I do every year.
You're never a winner.
I have a word for you to think. Orb. O-R-B. Orb. 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 Think orb.
Think orb.
I don't get it.
He's one of the top racehorses going to be in the race this weekend.
Oh.
And he's the one we're picking. Orb. Orb.
Yeah. Well, you can see how up on the race I am. I have to be honest. I really like the coverage that comes on NBC right before and all the feel-good stories. So I'm like, oh, I love that story. And I pick them.
Yeah.
But usually I do okay
Jennifer
in the
starts
derby.
those about noon,
Yeah, I know. It's just part of it. I love to sit down with a beverage and watch that. I just love it. And I'm crying. Travis is always like, what is your problem? Oh, did you hear the story of that horse? So, Orb. Okay. Glenn, if we go to the track, we will put a bet for you down on Orb.
You got one.
And I wanted to say that we're doing a lot of coverage on Horses in the Morning this week on the Kentucky Derby. That prediction of Orb came from the top handicapper in the country, was on the show with us on Monday. He won the World Handicapping Championship, $1 million, and we asked him who his pick was, and he said he had his eye on Orb, which probably means that he's not going to bet on Orb because he wants all of us to, and he's really going to be picking some other horses probably.
Yeah, that's tricky then. Okay.
Yeah, but we are doing a lot of coverage. Friday especially, we'll be having our guests on to talk about the Kentucky Derby and the horses that are running.
Great. Well, I can't wait to tune in for sure.
Maybe I'll get my information there and then place my bet.
There you go.
Exactly. You'll be better informed than I will be. Well, everybody, I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you have a great Derby party. And you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. You can like us on Facebook. Just search for Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Thin Line Global Products, and don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.